Now, Kansas, for years under Bill Self, ripped through the Big 12 like a chainsaw through butter. Kansas, for years under Bill Self, were the gold standard of college basketball, along with some of the other blue blood programs. But if you look now at what Kansas has been under Bill Self, I'm just going to do this off the top of my head right now. Bill Self was hired in 2003, and there were a couple of upsets for sure. That happens, when you're going to be a head coach at the high major level for a long time. But let's look at Kansas right now since Bill Self was hired. 2004, you lose in the Elite Eight to Georgia Tech. Paul Hewitt was a coach at Georgia Tech in overtime. Hard-fought game. 2005, upset by Bucknell. 2006, Kansas was upset by Bradley. 2007, Elite Eight, lose to UCLA. 2008, National Championship. 2009, lose to Michigan State in the Sweet 16. 2010, you're a 1 seed. You lose to Ali Faroukmanesh and Northern Iowa. 2011, you're a 1 seed, but you lose to VCU and Jamie Skeen in the Elite Eight. 2012, you lose to Kentucky and Anthony Davis in the national title game. 2013, you're a 1 seed. You lose to Trey Burke in Michigan. 2014, you're a 2 seed without Joel Embiid. You lose to Stanford in the round of 32. 2015, 2 seed, you lose to Wichita State. 2016, 1 seed, lose to Villanova in the Elite Eight. 2017, you're a 1 seed, you lose to Oregon in the Elite Eight. 2018, Final Four. 2019, you lose to Auburn, who went to the Final Four in the round of 32. 2020, before COVID, you had the best team in the sport before the tournament shut down. 2021, you lose to USC in the second round. 2022, you win it all. And now let's look at the last 2 years of Kansas basketball. Last 3 years, I should say. 2023, Kansas was a 1 seed. Bill Self didn't coach then. Lost to Arkansas in the round of 32. 2024, Kansas lost to Gonzaga and in the round of 32. And this year, in the first round of the NCAA tournament, Kansas lost to Arkansas. But Kansas was beyond just being a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament under Bill Self and just finishing, at a high level in the NCAA tournament. Kansas was about regular season dominance under Bill Self. The streak. So many years of winning at least a share of the Big 12 regular season title, and I know that ended a couple of years ago. But I will say this. The last 2 years are the first time at Kansas that Bill Self has lost double-digit games in a season. And the last 2 years at Kansas, Bill Self finished 6th in the Big 12 last year, and the year before he was tied for 5th. Those are the 2 worst conference finishes in the history of Bill Self's Hall of Fame career. And looking at his career, when he was at Oral Roberts, they were an independent before that. So they weren't exactly keeping conference standings. But the 3 places he's coached since, Tulsa, Illinois, and now Kansas, this is the worst back-to-back stretch of basketball that Bill Self's teams have had since his first 2 years at Oral Roberts from a conference standings perspective, even though, again, Oral Roberts is an independent. And I got to tell you, Kansas now is in a scenario, and this is not a hot take, this is just a fact of life. Kansas is now in a scenario, and we're going to do conference previews in July and August, but if you said, John, give us right now your Big 12 preseason conference power rankings, this is what I'm going to tell you. Kansas would not be in the top 5 of the Big 12. I'd go Houston. I'd go BYU. I'd go Texas Tech, Arizona, and Iowa State. Kansas would not be a top 5 team in the Big 12. And looking right now at the roster that Kansas has assembled, I see nothing but questions. Elmarco Jackson, former top 50 recruit, coming off a major surgery where he didn't play last year. Major surgery. Major injury. Big question mark. Darren Peterson, one of the best freshman prospects in the country, expected to be one of the top players selected in the 2026 NBA draft, but he's a freshman. And in 2025, you can't depend on freshmen in college basketball. Jaden Dawson, leading scorer on a good Loyola Chicago team out of the Atlantic 10, going to have to play a major role. Trey White, nice piece to the puzzle, transfer from Illinois. But this is his fourth school in 4 years. And then you have Flory Badunga, who will step in the pivot, who, again, is the only real player of that five that I just mentioned, which is Kansas's projected starting five, that has had, a taste of things regularly in a Jayhawk uniform when you talk about potential starters. Kansas is 2 legitimate players away from being vintage Kansas, from having a dog in the fight. I know that they're recruiting internationally. I know that they're doing everything that they can to get involved with the remaining prospects that are still in the NBA draft, that are also in the transfer portal. You've heard Kansas's name mixed in with Darian Williams, who played for Texas Tech, last year, was a big part of that Red Raiders team that went to the Elite Eight and lost to Florida in a heartbreaker. But the facts are the facts, and I've said this on multiple shows already. Name, image, and likeness has balanced everything out. And now, all of a sudden, being a blue blood does not have the same cachet that it used to when it comes to recruiting the best of the best. A kid can go to BYU. A kid can go to St. John's. He can go somewhere else and get compensated handsomely rather than going to a blue blood. It's not as big of a hook as it used to be. And you look at some of the other programs in the sport right now that were used to being at blue blood caliber status. I just went through Kansas's last 20 years roughly under Bill Self. Championships in the Big 12, 1 seeds and 2 seeds ad nauseum in the NCAA tournament. Tied for 5th and then 6th last year in the Big 12 standings. Would not be in my top 5 right now in the Big 12, let alone nationally. Right now I have Kansas 32 nationally. Would not be on my AP preseason top 25 ballot. This is Kansas. North Carolina, lose R.J. Davis, lose Elliot Cadeau, lose Ian Jackson. Seth Trimble is going to be one of the best players in the ACC. Like the Evans kid from Colorado State, he's a piece. Like Jaron Stevenson, he's a piece. Caleb Wilson, 5-star freshman. Okay. But this is North Carolina. This is where you're supposed to be competing for championships. I think the Tar Heels are solid. I think they'll make the NCAA tournament. I like Visar from Arizona. Had a good run under Tommy Lloyd. But the blue blood programs that we came to know, teams that were making the Final Four, just look at where things are at right now. And I'm talking about the last half decade. 2021 national championship game in the bubble. I was there. For 26 days, I was there in 3 rooms. I needed padded walls by day 20. It's going to be in my book someday. Could have used a good therapist during that time. Baylor played Gonzaga in the national championship game. Baylor's whole roster flipped over during the offseason. Gonzaga, again, is going to have a 4-5 in Braden Huff and Graham Ike, who's going to be as good as any in the sport. But Gonzaga's guards are a pair of unproven commodities at the highest level. Braden Smith was a redshirt last year. Patriot League Player of the Year in 23-24. Jalen Worley, redshirted last year. Played at Florida State, transferred to Virginia, sat out last year after transferring to Gonzaga. There's big question marks. You look then at the 2022 Final Four. Kansas won the national championship. They beat North Carolina in a title game. Neither team would be ranked in my top 25 to start next season. The other 2 teams in that Final Four, Duke, which is flourishing under John Shire, and Villanova, who just had a head coaching change. Blue blood programs. You want to go to the 2023 Final Four? UConn, national championship, could win another one this year. Dan Hurley, the best of the best. The best of the best right now. Made some roster decisions, which he would, probably like to have back after last year, but he would tell you that. Silas Demery Jr. is going to be a big pickup for UConn. They'll be right back in the mix to go to a Final Four and win a national championship. Right back in the mix. Miami, whole roster turned over. We're going to talk to Jay Lucas here in a couple of weeks, but whole roster turned over. That other Final Four, other side of it, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State. San Diego State has kept things afloat, but everybody else you look at from a blue blood perspective, for the most part. Gonzaga, Baylor, Kansas, things have shifted. And if you're Kansas now, you are 2 players away. You need 2 impact transfers. You need an impact international guy, or you need a transfer. You're 2 players away. Again, if you're Kansas, this is the starting 5. Marco Jackson coming off a major injury. Darren Peterson, potential one and done. Great talent. We don't know if he's going to lead a team in the Big 12. Is he going to go to the Fertitta Center and carry Kansas against Houston? Is he going to go to United Supermarkets Arena and carry Kansas against Texas Tech? Jaden Dawson, nice player in the Atlantic 10. Wasn't the best player in the Atlantic 10. Wasn't like Max Shulga had another year from what he did at VCU, and he went to Kansas. Trey White, big fan of Trey White. Right now, he and Floyd Badunga are probably the most polished and proven players in terms of power conference basketball on Kansas's roster. Jayhawks are 2 players away from being vintage Kansas and having a legitimate dog in the fight. Right now, they're not a top 5 team in the Big 12.